Hello everyone, this is Bill Apter down here at Apter's Alley, February 10th, 2016. And hope you're all having a great day. And this is a day that we need to pause and remember one of the all-time greats. And it almost slipped my mind, until I got this email from Fidel Sierra, and his lovely lady Fantasy. Fidel Sierra is the Cuban Assassin. Yeah, and he sent me an email that I want to read to you about a very dear friend of his who we lost, and he was also a very dear friend of mine. So, February 10th, 2003. He writes, was the day the wrestling world lost one of its most charismatic legends. Parents lost a son, a wife lost her husband, children lost a loving father, and I lost one of my best friends. It's hard to believe that it's been 13 years since Mr. Perfect, Curt Hennig, passed away, and so much has happened since. But one thing that has not changed throughout these years, as the void of pain of his loss lurks close to the surface. It's so true. His memory lives on in the times we shared, the miles we traveled, the hardships we faced, and the ribs he played. Just in case you didn't know, Curt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, was a hell of a joker. So let's remember Curt as he liked to live his life, and that is enjoying every minute to the fullest and pick up a glass and gargle a shot of Jack Daniels in his honor. People who know me know sparkling ice and Fanta is my brew, but had I had a bottle of Jack Daniels down here, Cuban, I would have done it for him. Curt, continue to rest in peace. You are in good company. We miss you, and the legacy you left behind will never be forgotten, and neither will you. I love you, my brother. Signed, Fidel Sierra, the Cuban Assassin, and Fantasy. It scares me sometimes when I watch WWE shows and I look at Curtis Axel, because he's like his face is like the second coming of his father. I traveled many roads with Curt Hennig. He was one of my dearest friends, and there are so many memories. I mean, it would take me probably about 3 months just to tell you all the stories. One that I like to tell every year, and it's in my book, is Wrestling Fixed. I didn't know it was broken. Is that Curt Hennig got me to meet in person George Strait. I'm a big country music fan. A lot of you don't know that, but Curt Hennig was kind enough. I called him one day and I said, "Hey Curt, George Strait is coming to the arena, the big arena. I think it was the Wells Fargo Center, maybe back then. I'm probably wrong about this, but I said, I know you know George Strait and his people. Do you think you could hook me up?" And actually, prior to that, I called Percy Pringle, Paul Bearer, and asked him. He says, Curt Hennig knows George Strait and all his people. Call him. He's with them right now. So he said, Bill Apter, for you, I'll do anything. You're my buddy. You're my friend. And he says, I don't want anything in return. Don't worry about it. So wasn't looking for a story, nothing or anything like this. So he called me a short time afterwards. He said, you've got two tickets waiting for you at the box office. By the way, it was the Wachovia Center. I just remembered. So now usually when a wrestler says, hey, I'm leaving tickets for you at the box office, the chances of it being there are like pretty nil. Anyway, I went with Brandy, one of the PWI editors back then, and she liked George Strait too. And we got the tickets, and it was right on the incline, looking straight at the stage. Well, he put on 2 hours of an amazing show. Absolutely. He did all his hits, Write This Down, Amarillo by Morning. I mean, everything. It was just great. So that night I called Curt. It was very, very late, and I left a message on his machine thanking him. A day or two later I called him again and couldn't get him. Left another message, and then another message. And then somebody called me and they said, "Did you hear that Curt Hennig was found dead?" No, I hadn't heard it, and the news was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. Curt had told me when he got the tickets that he would not be able to hook me up to meet George Strait that night, but somewhere down the road he would hook me up with George Strait. A year later, I was at a TNA wrestling show. It was one of their first shows. Ken Shamrock was on that show. And as I was shooting pictures, during the break, a guy tapped me on the back and he said, "Mr. Apter, my name is Andrew." He says, "I work at the Trap. Steve, who is the owner of the Trap, is hooked up with George Strait, and we know who you are and all that. We're having a private party tonight down at the Trap. Would you like to come down?" This is about 1 year to the date that Curt had died. Said sure. So we go down there, and there's very few people, and there was a group of people, about 8 or 9 people, sitting circular around a table. And I get introduced to Steve, and then Steve says, "Oh, well, this is my friend George." And I look at him, and it's George Strait. Yeah. Damn. About a year later, Curt Hennig promised me that he would introduce me to George Strait. So I guess it was happening. I went over to George Strait and I said, "Do you remember me?" He said, "I can't place you." I said, "At the Wachovia Center, Philadelphia, sold out, 22,000 fans. I was in section F103, and you were singing Write This Down, and you winked at me." He said, "Oh yeah." No, he played along great. And then I told him the story of how we're meeting face to face tonight, and what Curt Hennig told me that would happen about a year later. So that was just one of a zillion stories I have on Curt Hennig. Rest in peace, Fidel, Sierra, and Fantasy. Thank you for sharing your love of Curt Hennig with us, and never forget him, because he was just a great guy.